It occurred to me a while back, and I was talking to Jim about it. It occurred to me a while back that as I've called Jim over the years to talk about certain things, there's been a fair bulk of our relationship that has consisted of Jim saying, Billy, Billy, where are you going? And it's this way. It's this way. And then I'll call him about a year later and I'll be all upset about something. It's, Billy, where are you going? I see now that he got that from Jesus, of course, which is why we need to be careful of that McGuigan guy. I think he gets a lot of what he says from the Bible. But if you'd never been to the ocean and you had never witnessed the tide going out, and there you are witnessing that spectacle for the first time, and you were to place a bet against the tide coming back in, I imagine that that's a bet that you wouldn't likely repeat. And thereafter, the more you see the tide come in, the less likely you would be toward making that bet ever again. And you might not know everything about the tide, how often it falls, how quickly it comes back in. You may not ever know what effect the moon is having upon it. You wouldn't even have to go paddling into the waves to know that that's a bet you should no longer make. You might not know anything about oceanographic currents, tides, planetary effect, but one thing you do know now, you do know that the tide doesn't go away to stay away, and that is a losing bet. Jesus mildly rebukes those around him when he says, you know, when evening comes, you say, it'll be fair weather, for the sky's red. And in the morning, you'll say, today it's going to be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, and you cannot interpret the signs of the times. Whatsoever is sown shall be reaped isn't a threat. I know that sometimes we might hear it as a threat, but that's probably because we're afraid of some of the things we're often burying or sowing. But it isn't a threat. Similarly, Jesus says, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. Jesus isn't dealing in agriculture, and neither is he stating anything new. Apprentice farmers knew that. Commoners knew that. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. Seeds are purposefully designed for the field, and they are able to bring forth and sustain life. But to do it, they must die. And it's not a negotiable. It doesn't matter. The seed doesn't care what you think about that or how you feel about that. You may hate the idea. It affects it not one bit. The reason Jesus' evangelism was so electric was because he planted himself in the field of humanity and died. And what else would the genuine son of Adam produce except that which is according to its own kind? So we are not asked to pick up our deck chairs and sunbathe. We're told to pick up our cross, pick up our death, pick up our suffering, and follow. So everything that we read in Scripture, they aren't lovely little tales of earthly stories with heavenly meanings. They are fundamental statements regarding the reality of life itself, so that the children of God can learn how to navigate and negotiate their way through this thing that he's blessed us with. The spiritual realm, the mechanics behind the scenes of what we see, all the fundamental working principles that manipulate the world around us. If we could only see or read the world under the light of God, and by, among other things, falling to the ground and dying, then the lamp unto our feet would illuminate a path that is not only much easier to navigate, but easier to understand and appreciate. And it also makes the path much more interesting to walk. But these sayings, these teachings, these seeds with so much potential, the heavenly manna that falls upon us, by which we might find and eat the light that he graciously shines upon us. They're not just little stories to get us to the following Sunday or help us with a bad day. They're Jesus' way of telling us that his Father's creation is set in such a way that certain things are readable, not only readable, predictable, and that they're not open for negotiation. When it comes time to teach Will how to drive, I'm going to tell him, son, with all the best intentions in the world, you can stick diesel in it if you want. You're not getting off the forecourt. It's not built like that. Whatever it is we're building, whether it's our individual life, our families, our church, our community, our nation, if it isn't built upon the rock, if it isn't being erected with the right motive for the right reason, it's coming down. It's not of him. His structure is built in such a manner that he wins. And it's not even eventual, it's inevitable. It's the way the thing is built. The principles that govern us, built into the fabric of reality, will make sure those things that are determined wrong will fall. Conversely, those things on the rock, those things that are built with the purest of motives for the glory of our God, those things, they cannot be penetrated by the gates of hell. So if you want to build, we can't be as wise as serpents if we can't see, if we don't know how to navigate and negotiate our way through life, what it means, what it's calling from us, what's the difference between a challenge and a rebuke, what it desires of us, how to act, how to respond, how to produce. We can't be the salt of the earth if we're not spread over the whole joint, right? We can't be the light of the world stuck under a bushel on the edge of town. Look, I know we were surprised when Jesus came back. When he was raised back to life. But we had no right to be. We lived in a world that the tide goes out and it always comes back in. The sun goes down and always comes back up. Every fall, the vegetation dies, only to resurrect back to life every single year to produce and sustain life, and that according to its own kind. So when we took him the seed of all seeds, light and life itself, and we buried him in the ground, what did we think would happen? Think about with what absolute certainty Jesus spoke about his resurrection. It isn't just a man coming back to life. It isn't simply a fulfillment of prophecy. It wasn't God sprinkling magic dust over a tomb. The assurance with which Jesus refers to it helps us see that he saw his resurrection as an undeniable eventuality, the inevitable consequence of a life so lived within his Father's creation. Nothing that alive could die and stay dead. It's not how the place is built. He knew he was the seed of God, and that by planting him would only produce more and of the same kind. In this world with so much potential crouching at our doors, seeking mastery over us, luring us in to depend upon her, deceiving us into thinking that she is all there is, enticing us to believe that the pleasures that she offers and the comforts that she affords are to be valued above all else, seducing us to relax in her surroundings, intoxicated by her indulgence is, I'm all there is, she whispers. I'm all there is. Get it while you can. You only get one go. You're a long time dead. Get what you can while the going's good. Look, feel, smell, touch. I'm all there is. She slithers into our ears. I was watching a commercial, ages ago now. And the camera is moving through a bathroom. And the bathroom is hot and steamy. You can barely see anything except the steam passing through the lens. And you can hear a shower. And then you hear the voice of a woman in the shower. And she's oohing and ahhing in a highly sexualized manner. So the commercial's leading you to believe that she's not alone. And she's not. When the camera finally got in there past the shower door, we saw that she was sharing the shower with a bottle of shampoo. And that's what was giving her the pleasure. Is that where we are? Look, I'm not too ignorant to know that sex sells, but when we're using it to sell shampoo, but you see, they have to do this. This is where they've pushed themselves, because their world is a lie and it's built upon lies. There is nothing of substance to show. It has to be manipulated and manufactured. If they didn't sell these things in the exaggerated, overstated ways they do, they wouldn't shift a single bottle. If they were forced by Congress, to be honest, well, it's a pipe dream. The last thing Congress is going to force anyone to be is honest. But if they were forced to be honest, the commercial would consist of a camera moving through a bathroom with no noise, no steam, no heightened pleasures, and the camera would finally settle on a bottle, followed by an announcement, hair cleaner, buy some now. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The entire pharmaceutical industry is founded upon this nonsense. When they sell you a painkiller, you can't just be in pain. That's not good enough. The guy in the commercial can't simply be holding his ear saying, ouch. No. Instead, we gotta animate the whole thing. Sometimes we have bolts of lightning hitting the guy, or other times his whole arm or his whole leg is glowing, or if he's got an upset stomach, that's not just acid in your belly. Thanks to our advanced, animated, imaginative, exaggerated, overstated techniques, we can zoom right in your belly and we see that it's actually a volcano and it's spewing out lava, and the discomfort that you're having will only go away if you take this. Sometimes in these commercials, sometimes the entire guy just bursts into flames. It isn't simply a virus, it's a threat to all mankind. It's chasing us through the streets. Quick, take this before it's too late. Look, there's a reason they spend 95% of the commercial telling you what the pill might do for you, and the other 5% quickly informing you your head might fall off if you use it. Because to tell the truth, to have 100 dancers all dancing in the street with the music blaring and everyone's young and fit and thin and handsome, only then to have someone in the camera say, it's a fizzy drink. It's like water with bubbles in it. And it's ceaseless. It's relentless. This snake slithers her way into every crack and crevice of existence. We listen to the radio, she's there. We watch TV, she's there. We go to the movies and she's there. We drive down the road, she's on the billboards. We go shopping, she's everywhere. We look at what people are wearing and she's there too, luring us, seducing us, frightening us, warning us, threatening us, entertaining us, terrifying us, all toward the great lie that she is all there is. Deafening. I went camping the other week with the boys. Obviously, they weren't there. Because I sat by the lake and I thought, good God, what's that noise? It was silence. All these voices grappling for our attention, our allegiance. And it doesn't get much better inside the church. We've got this, we've got that, we're the better church, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, you're nothing if you don't worship here, we got this, Bedlam. But if we're quiet enough, for long enough, through the fog, we hear another voice. There's more. There's more to it than this. The voice isn't competing. Truth doesn't need to compete. Truth just needs to be said. Over 9 foot tall, this moron stood. 9'4", if I've got my Hebrew measurements correctly. A living death machine, ridiculing, taunting, humiliating, terrifying the children of God, over 9 foot of him, day after shameful day, until a shepherd arrived with a packed lunch for his brothers. And David saw it all. He saw everything that they saw. He heard everything that they were hearing, the sounds of jeering and taunting, the saber rattling, the shield banging. God says, David, there's more to it than this. And David says, yeah, I got that much out there with the lions and the bears. God says, go grab a few stones, would you, and teach this moron just how much there is to us. The king of Aram, he's miffed. He's more than a little displeased with Elisha. Every time the king of Aram has a plan, Elisha knows it and outmaneuvers him. It's the Battle of Midway of the Old Testament. So the king sends some men to deal with the problem. He sends an army to deal with the prophet. So many men, they surround the entire city in which Elisha is staying. Now Gehazi, Elisha's servant, he gets up that morning, and like most servants, I imagine he got up a little while before his master gets up to get things prepared. And he opens the curtain this particular morning. To the sight of a multitude of Rambos, commandos, all armed to the teeth, all staring in his direction. He goes in to wake up Elisha. Elisha's already up. Elisha's already up and singing, this is the day that the Lord has made. Good morning, Gehazi, my beautiful servant. How you doing? Anything new in the world today? Oh dear, Gehazi says to him, yeah, well, the mail's late. There's someone at the door for you. Well, you know the story. They look outside. Whilst Gehazi gets busy practicing his best Aramean accent. And then Elisha utters the single most obviously wrong sentence that's ever been uttered in the history of the world. He says to the servant, don't worry about this. Those that are with us. I'm picturing Gehazi. Sorry. Those that are with us are more than those that are with them. Well, I don't know how educated servants were back then, but I'm pretty sure they could at least count to 2. Oh, Gehazi. Oh, son, if you could only see this world as it is. And Gehazi's eyes are open to the sight of the armies of the living God surrounding that which is surrounding them. Isn't it amazing that those with faith always seem to be able to see just that little bit clearer, just that little bit further than the rest of us, sometimes seeing things that we can't see at all. And we're like, oh, wait, I think I see man. No, it's a tree. No, it's a man, but it's like a tree. And we beat a path back to our God to ask for more mud to be rubbed in our eyes. Incidentally, if there was ever an illustration to illustrate comprehensively just how upside down we've turned this place, It's that Jesus uses mud to help us see better. But understand, it wasn't Elijah's faith that brought God's army onto the battlefield. It only made visible what was already there. Only made visible what is always there. This is his world. So I don't know what it is that's surrounding you right now. I only know that whatever it is itself surrounded. Gehazi just couldn't see correctly. Something Jesus went to great lengths to open our eyes to, that we're not seeing it right. You think the head of the table is where it's at? You're not seeing it right. You think the first will be first. No! You think it's somewhat divine to have so much that you have to build bigger barns to contain it all? You're not seeing it right. You think violence should be replied to with violence. You think meekness is weakness. You're not seeing it right. You think the kingdom of God can be advanced by the thinking and tactics of the world. You're not seeing it right. You think, you think poverty is some kind of social scourge. I'm telling you, blessed are the poor. I've chosen them to be rich in faith. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the weak. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst. You pity them, they pity you. You got it back to front, upside down and inside out. And into this great big world of upside down, inside out, and back to frontness. Jesus on a hill just outside Jerusalem falls to the ground and dies in order that he might stand at your door and knock and say to you, "You coming? You coming?" And we might look at him and say, "What, to death?" And what would he say? "No, you're not seeing it right. Life." But that was a long time ago, huh? Or was it just yesterday? It might well have been. It means no more, no less today than it did on Resurrection Sunday. It still means that as we stand by the gravesides with our hearts too heavy to bear and eyes that are all cried out, it still means that as the world presses in on us, surrounding us, suffocating us with her fog, it still means that as we cast our eyes over our own lives, with all of our regrets and broken dreams and a barrow full of woulda, shoulda, couldas, it still means that if we'll be quiet enough for long enough, we'll hear the voice of the shepherd. There's more to it. There's more to it than this. It still means that we hear thundering down through the corridors of history, "He lives." And if we're quiet enough for long enough, we'll hear him say something like, "Billy, Billy, where are you going? Where are you going?" And I'll say to Jesus, "Well, I thought I would just," "What are you doing? It's over here." It's this way. Oh, children of the King, whatever else you do, don't bet against the tide. It's a losing bet. God bless you all.